Yo, what's going on, everybody? You tuned into Cragcore. Thank you very much for tuning in today. So, today we are talking about Austria because I noticed it's come to my attention, and I hope it's come to all of your attention too, that in Austria right now, uh, it's apparently been made law that you have to have the double prick. Now, I don't know, man. These are scary times because if you've got one country in Europe that has actually passed a law for people to have to get this injectable. I mean, have we forgotten that these things are still in the testing phase? Have we also forgotten that the companies that are producing them have been given legal immunity against any comebacks, against adverse reactions and stuff like this? Have we forgotten all of this? Have we forgotten the the abject shadiness of the situation? And yet you've got a country, a whole nation, a nation's government saying that this is now law, which criminalizes those people that choose not to. So what they've done effectively is make it illegal for people to choose for themselves over this. Now, this goes to show the amount of pushback that is actually happening, because if there wasn't any pushback, they wouldn't need to make it law, would they? So it does go to show, on one hand, that positively there is enough pushback, at least in one part of the world, to force these people to go that extra step, which is to make these things fucking law. Now, I would have to question at this point the need for it in the first place, the need for this double prick, because by Boris, Mr. Boris Johnson's own fucking words, the double prick doesn't actually stop you catching it or passing it on. So when you hear people like this Irish guy, this fucking Veruca guy, saying that 95% of people in Ireland are double pricked, and it's the 5% that aren't that are causing a surge in cases, that is preposterous. What that does is it lights a fire, because you've got 95% of the population, right, that have apparently been double pricked. Then they get told they've got to go into lockdown again, which is what's happening. They're going to have to go into lockdown again. What do you think is going to happen? The division is going to be fucking astronomical, because the majority, the abject majority, the 95% are going to say, well, why is it that all of us are being punished for that, behaviour, or for the free choice of the people, the 5%? What they'll say is, well, we want it making law as well. We want it to be made law that these people have to have it, because we're not going to be restricted by this. So what they'll do is they will call for their rights to be taken away, because they feel as though that's the only way out. And you see, they did this, didn't they? Remember I did that video about that petition that was going around, that was petitioning for people to have their rights taken away. This is what's happening, you see. And this is the plan all along. You've got to be able to see this, that these people want to take your rights away, but they can't do it legally because it's against human rights. So what they've got to do is to ask, they've basically got to get you to ask to have your rights taken away. And that's where we are at the moment. Where we are at the minute is people are asking now, or at least they will ask for their rights to be taken away because they're sick of being treated like shit and put into lockdown. And when they put numbers out there, because who really knows if 95% of the population of Ireland are double pricked? But they'll say that to make it seem more severe, that only 5%. Because if they can make the people that haven't had it, the people that don't want it, such a minority that it is seemingly insignificant, what that does is then it makes it insignificant or seemingly insignificant for these people to have their rights taken away. Because it's like, oh, well, you're only taking the rights away of 5% of the population. So that's okay. Because, you know, what benefits the greater fucking whole is a worthy thing. But what these people aren't going to realise is, as soon as they say, right, well, we don't want to be in lockdown anymore, so make it law that people have to have this double prick, they're thinking at that point, well, it doesn't affect me because I've already had it. And the only people that are affecting me are the 5%. So if we make it law, that means they've got to have it and then nobody's affected. That's the mentality. That's what it is that people are going to be fucking faced with. But when that law is passed, when that's brought into law, because people have asked for it, you see, later on down the line, they're not going to lift that law. What they're going to do is they're going to keep it in place. And that means now that everybody has to go along by law with absolutely everything that they put in place with regards to that subject. So if they say, now you need to have this booster, now you need to have this one, now you need to have that one, and all of these things that now come from that, it's law, it's in place. These people aren't going to take away a law that gives them more power. They want power. That's why they are in a position of power, because they want it. So therefore, they're not going to take it back and therefore give themselves less power, are they? No, they're not. So this is a very dangerous time for the population of planet Earth, because we're faced with people being forced to, maybe forced is the wrong word, but people are being manipulated in a way that gets them to ask for their rights to be taken away, because they're in this sick, twisted, schizophrenic mindset where they think that having their rights taken away gives them their rights back. And that is the fucking great deception of this whole situation. And people have to fucking realise that. People have got to get on board with that and realise that it's not okay to have your rights taken away. It's not okay to have anybody's rights taken away, because if people's rights get taken away, then everybody's rights get taken away, because we are the people and we are all united, and what affects one will affect everybody. But you see, people aren't getting that. It's hard at the minute to realise that fact, because of the division that is in place within our society. It's an us and them mentality. So people get it in their head that, well, it's us and them, so we're only enforcing it on them, completely forgetting that it's not us and them. In our society, it's us and them with regards to us, the people, and them, the governments, them, the people that are in power. What affects one section of society will affect everybody. And people have to accept that. Because by asking for rights to be taken away, that will only ever bring about totalitarianism. And it's funny, isn't it, how we've just had Remembrance Day for the soldiers that fell in the World War. You know, everybody was wearing poppies. The councils, hypocritically enough, put fucking poppies everywhere, which was nice to see. But at the same time, these same people are taking your rights away and then promoting the fact that people died quite clearly in vain because they were fighting for the rights of human beings, and yet what they fought for is now being completely fucking shit all over by the same people that are promoting it. It's disgusting. And you know what? People need to get angry about this. Because, you know, say what you want about the world wars. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that people died for something that they believed in, whether or not what they believed in was a lie. Because it was all manufactured by the same people that are manufacturing this bullshit. You know, the fucking oligarchs and the fucking self-appointed leaders of the planet. That's all by the by. These people believed they were fighting for freedom. And what's happened to that freedom now? Well, it's being taken away by the fucking people that got these people to go out there and fight for it. It's absolutely disgusting. And while we're all stood around having a minute's silence for our fallen loved ones, for our ancestors that fought so that we can fucking sit around and have our freedom today, so that we can have a multicultural society, while we're sitting around and we fucking remember that, we ought to fucking remember that what those people fought for is slowly being decimated and deconstructed day by day by these fucking people that are in power now. So when you sit and have your minute's silence and you sit and you're fucking wearing your poppy and you're thinking about the freedom that we were all given because of the sacrifice of millions of people on both sides of the conflict, people died. While you're sitting around remembering that, maybe you ought to value that freedom enough to actually fight for the fucker. Because it's getting extremely worrying when we are faced with situations that are being manipulated and people are falling for it hook, line and sinker. You've got people manufacturing situations which the only outcome is ever going to be people begging for their freedoms to be taken away because of this us and them mentality, and they think that their current freedoms are being stripped by the 5%. That's not the case, is it? The 5% that have chosen not to be double fucking pricked are keeping to themselves anyway. They're fucking just going about their lives. They're not taking away the rights, are they? The people that are in power are taking away your fucking rights and using this 5% of the people in order to do it. Using your fear of losing, you know, your financial security. Using your apathy towards having to go into another lockdown against this 5% of the people. They're using all of that against your view of what free will should be, which will ultimately call these people out and make them fucking ask for their freedoms to be taken away in order for them to seemingly get some sort of freedom back so they can go about their daily lives again. It's disgusting. That is what's going to happen here. And you've got countries like Austria. I mean, in the UK, we're no longer part of the EU anymore. We had the whole Brexit thing. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I suppose with regards to this situation in Austria and how it's a part of the a part of the EU, it's a part of Europe. This means that, let's just say, for instance, the EU come out and say, right, well, we're going to mandate it across the EU. Then it's a good thing that we're not, you know, we're no longer a part of that anymore. But because obviously we are now, I suppose, technically a republic, an independent nation nonetheless, this does give rise to the possibility that our government can rule with an iron fist and do whatever it is they want, regardless of any outside, input. So I suppose at this point we can stay feeling lucky that should that situation arise and the whole of Europe is ended up with a legislation, made it legal, a legal requirement for you to have the double prick, and therefore criminalising people that don't take it, which is absolutely disgusting. Anything with a risk ought to have a choice with it, man. And anybody wanting to take away that choice is a fascist. Anybody that supports that choice being taken away is a fascist. So ultimately, we can be happy right now, just in case that situation does arise. But we also need to remain very, very cautious and very, very aware that the same or worse could happen here, given the fact that it's a standalone republic at this point. It's a standalone governing body that can just do whatever they fucking please. Now, it's been quite calm in the UK over the past few months. I've noticed that the severe minority are those people wearing face coverings in shops and stuff now. People that were wearing them every single day of their lives to do whatever they wanted to do whatever they needed to do are now no longer doing it, which is good. And things are starting to die back. And at this point, apart from the numbers of the cases being forced down your throat on a daily basis, the world is relatively back to normal. And I think what that's doing is it's allowing people to remember, actually, this isn't, the world doesn't really look like there's a pandemic going on at this point. Nor has it ever really, when you think about it. But I'm worried. Personally, I am worried that this is the calm before the storm. Because as the reports on the cases are kind of going up, if you've got people emboldened enough to come out on the mainstream news platforms and say that such a divisory narrative, which is the 5% of people that are unpricked, are creating an upsurge in a population where 95% are double pricked. If you've got people that are emboldened enough to say that, then you've got to be worried, man. Because who knows? That's only over the water a few miles. Ireland's not far away from the UK. So what's going to happen here? I mean, you've got to just... because there's more of a percentage of people that are unpricked in the UK than 5%. It's probably more like 30%. So if this flies in Ireland and they say, okay, we're going to bring all of these restrictions in, based on all this fucking fear porn, and then people do start to beg for their freedoms to be taken away in order to gain some sort of fucking freedom, which is madness in itself. It is insanity when you think, you've got to say, I want my freedom to be taken away to get freedom, because then you're not getting freedom, are you? So come on now. But if that's allowed to happen there, on a precedent of 5% of the population, which is fucking crazy, because how can it be? Well, then what's going to happen in the UK when they say, well, 30% of the people, aren't pricked over here? I don't know if that's the case, but I dare say it's probably more like that type of a number over here. Well, then we need to do even more severe things over here. That's what they'll say. Which is why I'm worried, because the UK government are holding back for a reason. Because they're probably thinking, we'll look to see... and it's obviously all a plan. It's definitely the same people. There is a unified government system, a shadowy government system behind the front government systems. Of course there is. Otherwise, how else could it all be orchestrated globally? Let's face it. So let's not be stupid here. So there's a reason why the UK government is holding back, because I feel as though the precedent that is being set will allow for the UK government to say, well, all of this has happened. All of these other countries have done this based on this, X, Y, and Z. Which means now, because we've got a problem, which will also be manufactured, of course, but they'll tell you it's the unpricked fault, because that sets the precedent has been set. The narrative has been set. They'll say, well, we now need to do the same as what these other countries have done. And, you mark my words, man. It's a worrying time. When you see a government that is quite clearly all about power, that have had no problems whatsoever in stripping the people of their identities and their livelihoods and their reason of purpose, remain quiet for such a long time, and to allow things to just kind of go back to normal for such a long time, you've got to be worried. And in my opinion, it's the calm before the storm, and shit's going to kick off before Christmas. I've just got a feeling. And if it doesn't, I'll hold my hands up and say, I was wrong. But these people, up to this point, have proven that they're at least capable of that. So I don't think it's far out of the realms of possibility to expect or to suspect that might happen. Now, just going back quickly before I end this video to the 5% narrative that these people in Ireland are starting to spit around. If you've got 5% of a population that are unpricked, that's not 5% of people that are all huddled together, is it? No, they are dispersed far and wide. So you've probably got then 10 people per town. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it. Maybe. Are you telling me then that 5% are able to create an upsurge massive enough to lock the country down, when the rest of the population is protected by a double fucking prick? Because surely that's what people were told. This will protect you. But as it turns out now, it doesn't stop you catching it, and it doesn't stop you passing it on. But even still, so you're rendered the same as anybody else at that point then. Because if it doesn't stop you catching it, it doesn't stop you fucking passing it on, well, then it doesn't work. There is no protection. So it's really not the 5%, is it, that are unpricked? It's everybody. Think about it. If 95% of the population can still fucking pick it up and pass it on, how can it be the 5% of the people that aren't fucking double pricked that are causing an upsurge? Because by the fucking government's own admission, it doesn't stop you catching it and passing it on. So it's everybody that is creating an upsurge, should there actually be one. How can it be the fucking 5%? How? Think about it with a fucking sane mind. The 5% may well be catching it as well and passing it on, but so can every other fucker. Okay, so it's not the 5%, is it? So to get you to say, take the 5%'s fucking rights away so we can all be free, you can see that that's all part of the fucking game, because anybody able to look at that situation with fucking common sense can see then that it's not the 5%. So you've got to then say, well, they're telling you that for a reason. They're lying to you for a reason. And what do these people want? They want power. And they want you to submit that power. So that, in my opinion, is the reason why they are lying to you and getting you to hate people that have got the bollocks to fucking stand up against this regime. Because these people are going to try and attack and get you to attack the people that dare stand up against them. And if they can get the public on their side, the majority of the public, if they can get 95% of a population of a fucking country on their side to bully and downtread those people that dare stand up against them, well, they are on the winning fucking side then, aren't they? That's what this is about. It's about fucking decimating any resistance, which tells you all you need to know. Because if they are trying to decimate resistance to their fucking regime, well, then they are quite clearly not democratic. And because democracy requires challenge in order for it to remain a democracy, first and foremost. But that goes to prove that if they want to take away any resistance, no matter what, and they're going to manipulate the public in order to allow them to do so, well, then they are quite clearly fucking fascistic by nature, and they want a totalitarian dictatorship rather than a democratic government. And it's as simple as that. So open your eyes and take a look and see what there is to bloody see. And on that note, I'm going to wish love and peace to all things everywhere. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for sharing it and all of that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. It's Cragcore signing off. Peace.